Hey folks, this is Kalani. It's here, it's finally happening. A vendor that allows you to buy whatever corruption effect at whatever rank you wish and apply it to almost any item of your choosing. The full reliance on RNG for corruption effects is over. Or it will be as soon as this vendor makes it into the game. That's not all though. Starting with the very next reset, we'll also see the legendary cloak grind cut down significantly. Let's have a chat about how the vendor will work, what currency you're going to need to buy these corruption effects, and what limitations the system will have. Because there are a few. Before we jump in, be sure to pop by our live stream sometime over at twitch.tv/KalaniTV. We go live every Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday and Saturday at 12 PM PST. And swinging by and saying hi is one of the best ways you can support the channel and everything we do right now. By the way, a subscription on Twitch, which you can get for free if you have an Amazon Prime, will also get your name at the end of every YouTube video as a special thank you. So if you've always wanted to join the wonderful folks in the outro, now you know how. Hope to see you soon. Alrighty, the vendor. How does it work, and is this actually as good as it sounds? For the most part, yes, there are some limitations, we'll get to those a bit later. Mother will once again be the saving grace here. She became the vendor for account-wide essences, and she will also become the vendor for corruption effects. You'll be able to buy a corruption effect from Mother and apply it to an item just like you would an enchant. So if you want Twilight Devastation rank 3, you buy the Twilight Devastation rank 3 scroll or enchant or whatever it ends up looking like from Mother, then apply it to an item. That's it. You're done. You have Twilight Devastation 3 and the corruption to go along with it. If you want a Twilight Devastation 1, a Gushing Wounds, an Expedient 1, a Masterful 1, a Severe 1, and an Infinite Stars 1, just to throw it all on your gear, just buy all of those corruption at rank 1 and apply them to different items. You can create whatever setup you want with corruptions with this vendor in play. If you want to stack Infinite Stars on every piece, you do that. If you want Twilight Devastation every piece, sure, go for it. The sky is the limit. Or I suppose the more accurate thing to say would be your corruption resistance is the limit. But you get the idea. This is going to open the floodgates for amazing combinations of corruptions, and it removes the reliance on RNG when it comes to gearing. If you want to put your best corruption on your best in-slot item, now you can. You don't have to carry around that super low item level piece of junk with the worst possible stats for you just because it has a Twilight Devastation corruption on it. You might need to keep it around until you can buy the Twilight Devastation to replace it, but at least now you have a guaranteed way of working towards any and all corruption effects that you want, and you can put them on whatever piece of gear you have, providing it could be corrupted in the first place. Obviously you can't put it on your neck, you can't put it on Azurite pieces, all that jazz. Endgame in BfA just got a whole lot more interesting, which is great because ever since the alpha for Shadowlands came out, I really have not been interested in BfA whatsoever. So yeah, fantastic. We have a corruption vendor coming soon, but what exactly are we going to use to purchase these corruption effects? Enter Echoes of Ny'alotha. Again, if you've been tinkering around with your alts at max level in BfA, you will know that Echoes of Ny'alotha are used to purchase rank 3 essences that your mains have already acquired. A very useful currency to say the least, and now it will also be used to purchase corruption effects. The good news is that Echoes of Ny'alotha come from all sorts of content. You can get a lot from assaults, from horrific visions, from emissary quests, from raid bosses, from your weekly Mythic Plus cash, a little bit from Mythic Plus dungeons, you can also get some from your weekly conquest chest and PvP. As I said, it comes from almost everywhere at max level. That means you can work towards your very own personal choice of corruption effect in a wide variety of ways, which is always a great feeling. You have lots of choice. Now, because quite a lot of players were able to stockpile Echoes of Ny'alotha, and in this case stockpile means completely ignore the currency because it comes from everywhere and they didn't want to spend it, the dev team will be making some changes to the currency to ensure anyone with a stockpile aren't months ahead of players without one. So with a weekly reset, all Echoes of Ny'alotha drop rates will be increased by 5 times. You will earn it 5 times faster, but if you're still spending it on essences, you'll also spend 5 times more per essence. The price of a rank 3 essence will be increased from 500 echoes to 2,500 echoes, so if you want to buy an essence with your current echoes, do it now. Like, seriously, right now. Go do it right now. North American realms have practically no warning for this because our reset happens in a few hours, but European realms will have about a day heads up. If you want to buy an essence, do it before the reset because it will cost 5 times more afterwards. The other change that they're going to make to the currency is that any character who has their legendary cloak will be able to earn Echoes of Ny'alotha, so no more essence requirements at all. If you have your Lego cloak, you're good to go. An interesting note of them reusing this currency is that anyone who did not acquire all of their essences on an alt, and in some rare cases on their mains, may have been able to stockpile a good amount of Echoes of Ny'alotha, more or less for being lazy, or just not caring about unlocking every essence on an alt. If you didn't have any available essences on the vendor, either because it's your main character and no essences are available, or because you bought all available essences on an alt, you actually are not able to earn this currency before this change. My Demon Hunter right now has 0 echoes, because that character simply was not allowed to earn them because it had no use for them until the corruption vendor. Some of my guildies, on the other hand, have tens of thousands of echoes, just sitting there waiting for something to happen. Some of them have the echoes on their alts, but not on their mains, which is kind of backwards for what character they would want to buy specific corruption effects on first. It is an unfortunate side effect of the echoes currency not dropping for players who didn't need to buy essences, but that does mean that some players will get to pick up some very lucrative powers as soon as the vendor is enabled, while others will have to wait a couple weeks or maybe even longer. I am actually super curious though, if you have a lot of Echoes of Ny'alotha on your characters right now, how many do you have? What kind of stockpile are you sitting on? Let me know in the comments below. Even if you've got none, because you weren't able to earn them, let me know about that too. I'm very curious to see how many players actually have stockpiled Echoes. So we know what currency we're using, but how many echoes do we actually need? We don't have access to the vendor yet obviously, but we did get a preview from the blue post that announced these changes. Hold on to your skirts, some of these effects are going to be expensive. I'll put the little list that they gave us up on screen so you can see for yourself, but a Masterful 1 corruption effect will cost you 3,000 echoes, a Siphoner 1 will cost 4,250, a Twilight Devastation 1 will cost 6,250, a Siphoner 2 will cost you 6,300, Ineffable Truth 2 will cost 6,750, Racing Pulse 3 will cost you 7,875, Echoing Void 3 will cost you 12,000, and Twilight Devastation 3 will cost you a whopping 15,000. Some of those numbers seem really weird, but I would be very interested to see how they came to these values. Some of them also seem quite expensive, and they're obviously looking to put rank 3 Twilight Dev and probably rank 3 Infinite Stars right at the top. I can't wait to see what other corruptions, particularly the lower tiers of corruptions, cost from the vendor. To put things into perspective, let's see how many echoes you could collect in a week. If you complete every assault and do every horrific vision you can do for doing those assaults, which is 3 visions, and you get all of the objectives in the vision, and you do every emissary for the week, clear the Ny'alotha raid on any difficulty, complete a plus 15 keys sometime in the week, and cap your conquest for that weekly chest, you can expect somewhere in the ballpark of 9,000 echoes in any given week. So you can get a lot of these powers in a single week if you do everything that rewards Echoes of Ny'alotha. The less you do, the fewer echoes you will obtain, but even if you do everything, the big ticket items like Twilight Dev 3 will still cost more than what a week can provide, which might pose a bit of a problem with the next part of this little update. I said there were a few restrictions with this new system. The first big restriction is that the vendor will not carry every available corruption and rank at any given time. Mother will have a small selection that rotates twice per week. When the assaults swap over, Mother's wares will also change. That means you will need to check back twice a week to see if a corruption that you want is available for purchase, and if it's not, then you just keep saving up your echoes and cross your fingers that it pops up next time. If it takes 2 weeks for your corruption to pop up, well, That's just unlucky. What is going to be potentially very frustrating is if something is very expensive, like a Twilight Dev 3, and it's available on the very first set of effects. If you do not have a stockpile from before this update, it will be very difficult to get 15,000 echoes in 3 or so days. If it goes out of rotation before you can afford it, you may end up waiting quite a while before it comes back around again. Personally, I do not think rotating the vendor's wares is going to add any value at all. Players already know what they want at this point, so they'll just wait until the effect that they're after can be purchased. Limiting the effects that are available at any given time serves no purpose other than to slow down our acquisition of the corruptions we want. No one will buy something that doesn't fit into their little setup just because it isn't on the menu for that 3-day period. It just seems like a really weird, negative, and completely unnecessary spin on what would otherwise be considered a massive improvement to the state of the game in BfA. I mean, you know, we've been asking for a corruption vendor for God knows how long. Here comes the corruption vendor! Fantastic! He doesn't have what you want. Oh, check back in 3 days. Still doesn't have what you want. Oh, check back in 3 days. Rinse repeat until he does have what you want. There is one more restriction in play. You cannot use a corruption effect on a previously cleansed item. So if you get an amazing item from your Mythic Plus cache, but it rolls with an absolutely awful corrupted effect, you know, terrible, straight to mother to cleanse it, you will not be able to put another corruption on that item with this new vendor system. Apparently that's due to technical or code limitations. They are trying to fix it, but it won't be available right away. They don't want to delay the vendor to figure it out, so they'll work on that in the background. But that does mean that any gear which is guaranteed to be corrupted, which is your Horrific Visions loot and your weekly cash loot from Mythic Plus and PvP, if they do not roll with a good corruption to start with, the item itself becomes worth less than a similar item that you got from Mythic Plus, Raze or anywhere else, because it cannot be corrupted again. That's a really interesting change here, where some of the best item sources are now actually losing a huge amount of value due to this restriction, but at least we'll have access to more corruption in general, so more chances to get what you want, and fingers crossed that they figure out the code or technical limitation so we can actually do that in the future. It's not just essences and corruption effects available on the vendor now, by the way. You can also buy Vessels of Horrific Visions for 1,750 Echoes of Ny'alotha when the vendor becomes available. If you want to run more visions, now you can. Now, the Echoes of Ny'alotha changes, both being able to loot them after getting a legendary cloak and earning them 5 times faster than previously, will be active with the next weekly reset. So will the changes to the rank 3 essence prices. The corruption effects will not be available right away on the vendor because apparently they're not entirely finished, but the dev team will get it into the game as quickly as possible. It might even be enabled when the assaults first change over this week, which is Friday for NA and Saturday for EU, unless I'm mistaken. I think the latest we would see it is the reset after next, which would be around Tuesday the 26th. Keep your eyes peeled though, they could push it in a hotfix anytime this week. There is one more change coming with the weekly reset as part of this whole deal to make endgame a bit easier for alts and returning players. The legendary cloak grind will be simplified and cut down significantly. Now, any and all ranks of your cloak can be achieved with a single Horrific Vision run. So if a rank required pages that could come from all 4 bonus objectives, that rank will require 4 pages max. If the rank required pages from lost objectives only, that rank will now only require 2 pages total max. So some of these quests have gone from 6 or 8 pages required all the way down to 2. That will cut the legendary grind in more than half if my napkin math is right. 1 Horrific Vision per rank is going to be pretty insane and incredibly quick. Instead of up to 4, you only have to do 1. That's a pretty big change. That might just be the kind of change needed to get players to take their ults through the grind and get them all caught up. I know it's going to be amazing for players returning to the game as well. Seeing that massive grind ahead of them probably demotivated quite a few returning players. Apparently the dev team doesn't have any plans to change the legendary cloak grinding after you get to rank 15, so for those ones, 1 max per week if you're all caught up with that, and 2 max per week if you're a little behind. No further catch up is planned. So to recap real quick, go buy essences you want if you have the echoes for them right now. They're only going to get more expensive after the weekly reset. You will earn 5 times more echoes after the weekly reset, but the corruption vendor won't be enabled until it's ready, which may be sometime later this week. You can buy any corruption effect you want, but you will have to wait until it becomes available in the rotating stock. Some of them are going to be expensive, so I hope you love grinding Echoes of Ny'alotha. And then the legendary cloak will be super fast to rank up, so it might be worth doing that on your ult. But that's it for this video. What do you think of the corruption vendor having rotating wares? Seems kinda silly to me, but what do you think? Are the legendary cloak grind changes enough to make you want to run through it on some ults? And what do you think about some players having stockpiles of echoes, while others weren't able to earn echoes whatsoever? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. If you want to explore the alpha, or maybe even farm some echoes with us live, you can find us over at twitch.tv/KalaniTV. We stream every Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday and Saturday at 12 PM PST. Watching the stream and coming to say hi is one of the best ways you can support the channel right now, and if you ever wanted to be included in the list of names at the end of every video, a subscription on Twitch is the easiest way to make that happen. You get a free sub to any Twitch channel if you have an Amazon Prime too, so be sure to take advantage of that. A big thank you to everyone who has subscribed on Twitch already, and to our supporters over on Patreon. You can see their names floating by on screen. If you want to join these lovely guys and gals, now you know how. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave, and if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.